Understand that this is not a joke. You understand what I'm saying? At any given time, it'll get real back here.
One of the deaths involving an inmate in June of this year, who got his hands on a gun and killed a civilian food service worker with whom he was having a relationship with. Since 2018, there has been a total of 360 prison staff members fired for being involved in smuggling contraband, sexual assault, and extortion.
Damn. Alright y'all, so today we're going to be talking about the most feared prison or deadliest prison that they consider it in America. And one of the main prisons or just prisons in general that I always tell people about is any type of prison in Atlanta. I don't know what it is about Atlanta, but they sneak firearms in there. You got the guards that's down with it. I know we've heard of Rikers countless of times in New York, and we think that that's the craziest one, and it used to be. But as time went on and time progressed, other prisons, other jails have came up and they just took the cake, right? Because when you have an infrastructure where the guards are in on it and they're bringing in guns, it's like no winning against that, man. And we're going to see that one of the prison workers actually was unalived by one of the inmates due to gun violence, which is crazy. So you would think that they're inside and they don't have no weapons, but then again, they're getting weapons inside because they have access to not only weapons, but a lot of money to encourage these guards that's not getting paid anything in the first place to do things that they need to do. Whether it's eating outside food, whether it's having jewelry that they're not supposed to have, having certain designer clothes that they're not supposed to have. And people think, well, you know, maybe they're being too hard on them. But it's not about that. It's about those things causing destruction in other fights and things that happen in prison, because you have certain materialistic things that you're not supposed to have, like jewelry, clothes, and so forth. So we're going to get into this, man. First and foremost, shout out to Firm Hand. They definitely did a good job on this video. I caught a little bit of it before I decided to react to it. And one of the main reasons I wanted to react to it is because I know we have a lot of guys that are young on this channel. And before you make the mistake and it's way too late and you find yourself in a penitentiary somewhere or even a jail, and you going through these certain circumstances, maybe you could see this and realize that it's not worth it. Your freedom is more important. So we're going to get into the video, man. But before we do, make sure you hit that thumbs up button so we can get this video into the algorithm. And if you're not subscribed to the platform already, make sure you do so now. Let's get into it. Understand that this is not a joke. You understand what I'm saying? At any given time, it'll get real back here.
This is what happened when you tattoo on, especially one of my brothers, man. Dig what I'm saying?
Look at that. Imagine giving somebody, first of all, you're not supposed to, but imagine giving somebody a tattoo because they asked you, and then they doing this to you because they didn't like it. Damn.
Dig what I'm saying?
I run on BLOODS. Go on, edit that, gang. You Pyru.
Hold up, man. What we got going on in this chat, man? My fault. I got That's hell, man. Where,
They all got weapons.
Georgia is the 8th most populous state in the United States.
See, that's crazy. Now, I watched a little bit of it, but I didn't see this part where they said that they was going to be talking about Georgia. But how did I know? It's because I'm not lying to y'all when I tell y'all Georgia, listen, whatever you do not get locked up in Georgia. I'm telling you right now. They on a different level in there.
And has the 4th highest prison population. The state of Georgia houses over 50,000 inmates in 34 facilities across the state, with 25,000 of those prisoners being labeled violent offenders. There are also 9,600 inmates currently serving life in prison and over 40 inmates currently on death row awaiting to be executed. Since the year 2022, there has been a total of 113 murders inside Georgia prisons.
You hear that? 120 something. Yeah. And that's not no kitty number. They're talking about 100 and something. That's not supposed to be happening. You're supposed to be protected when you in jail.
With 44 already this year, this includes one of the deaths involving an inmate in June of this year, who got his hands on a gun and killed a civilian food service worker with whom he was having a relationship with. After he shot and killed her, he turned the gun on himself and committed suicide. The shooter was able to get the gun by having a civilian on the outside fly a drone over the prison with the gun attached to it and drop it in the prison yard where he would collect it. He had been in prison for 9 years on a manslaughter charge, with his earliest release date being 2043. This murder would be the second death of a prison staff member in Georgia in less than a year, with the last death involving a prison guard being stabbed to death from behind with a homemade knife. The Georgia prison guard job has a high number of job vacancies due to its low pay, with its starting salary at $40,000, which is the equivalent of making $19 an hour. In 2012, there were 6,500 prison staff employees, but in 10 years that number dropped 60%, well below to 2,500 guards in 2022. Due to the low pay and not having enough manpower to handle the large number of inmates, prisoners will bribe guards to smuggle in drugs, phones, food, and designer clothing.
They doing what they want in there. And the reason being is because they short staffed, and they know that. And the staff that are there, most of the time they like, listen, we're not getting paid enough. These guys allegedly got guns, they got sharp knives, and they're actually willing to take the life of a guard. They're not even scared. Nah, it ain't worth the $19. And I've always said this, man. When it comes to COs, police officers, any of them people in that regard that gotta hold the law or hold you accountable to the law, they need to be paid a very, very decent amount. Because if they're not going to care to hold you accountable to the law because they feel that it's not worth it. It's not worth their life. They want to go back to their family. Now, if you grease their hand and you give them a certain amount of money, they like, all right, well, listen, this is actually worth it. I'll take it a little more serious. But if not, this is what you get.
Inmates would pay guards amounts from $1,500 and more for every delivery they made to them. Since 2018, there has been a total of 360 prison staff members fired for being involved in smuggling contraband, sexual assault, and extortion.
Damn.
In 2019, a correctional officer was caught trying to smuggle in 8 cell phones and 2.6 pounds of meth to an inmate, for which she was going to receive $10,000, but she was caught and would eventually be sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. Prison guards would even go above and beyond when an officer was on an inmate's payroll. The inmate paid the officer to kill another female officer who decided to stop moving drugs for him. The inmate would later attempt to send another hit on another officer, but the hitman ended up killing the wrong person. Now the inmate is currently on trial awaiting the death penalty. Even a prison warden was caught drug smuggling, and it was found that the warden was getting paid well above $44,000 from various inmates to help smuggle in drugs and other illegal items.
Look at his face. He looked crooked. He looked crooked. Now, if the warden is doing their job, that jail, that facility, they don't stand a chance. The warden is doing it. Not just the COs, the warden, he's the guy that controls everybody beneath him. So if he's crooked, just imagine how that jail is being ran.
In 2023, prison officials would shake down and search inmate cells, and that year they would find a total of 6,300 cell phones, 1,432 pills, 242 pounds of cocaine, 300 pounds of marijuana, 769 pounds of meth, fentanyl, and heroin, which investigators would calculate the street value to be a total of $4,320,000 worth of contraband seized.
You hear that? They had over $4 million worth of contraband seized. This is in prison. This ain't on the outside. This is in prison. Damn, boy.
The year before, an inmate with access to a cell phone scammed the Charles Schwab Bank out of $11 million, and he would eventually be caught. After he was released from prison, he was arrested by federal authorities and would eventually be sentenced to 11 years in federal prison. The Georgia Department of Corrections would document a total of 15,000 gang members, with the most well-known gangs being 4,700 Bloods, 3,900 Gangster Disciples, and 1,400 Crips. In October of 2024, the federal government Department of Justice would launch a full investigation into the horrific conditions and corruption in the Georgia prison system. Due to the lack of prison staff in 2021, there were a total of 702 sexual abuse acts against inmates in Georgia, with most of these victims being a part of the LGBT community. Gangs that run housing units often target LGBT inmates with physical violence to force them out of the gang's housing unit. For example, in 2022, 24-year-old openly gay and transgender inmate Tristan McKee, who had a history of mental illness and suicidal ideations, was placed in a gang housing unit that was very hostile against LGBT inmates. He was attacked and beaten by Bloods and gangster disciples, and while he tried to run and escape, he was stabbed 12 times, including being stabbed in his eye, and prison guards would respond 45 minutes later. Hours later, he was pronounced dead. The day before his death, he told prison guards that he needed help leaving his housing unit because he felt that his life was in danger, but the guards ignored him. At the time of his death, Tristan only had 1 more year in prison left until he was eligible to come home. And tortures are very frequent in Georgia prison.
Yeah, see, and I don't understand that, right? And the reason why I'm tripped up behind that is because I personally have heard of stories where an inmate lost their life, but prior to losing their life, they made it very, very clear to the guards that, listen, my life is either in danger, somebody's trying to plot against me, I think this is going to happen to me, and the guards just don't do nothing about it, right? And then sometimes they even put you in the wrong housing unit where your classification doesn't make you eligible to be in. And they purposely do that sometimes. Like, perfect example, if they say that he was one of those inmates that was a little zesty, and let's say with the CO didn't like that, they purposely may have put him in that housing unit where they know, like the narrator said, they know that they don't typically like, the zesty guys, and it's going to be very hard for him. And they purposely do it. Now, do they think that he's going to lose his life? Maybe not. But by you putting him in there, you put his life at risk, and he ended up losing it. Crazy. And you know what's crazy? Nothing happens to the guard. Nothing happens to the guard.
For example, in August of 2020, an inmate passed a note to an officer stating that the inmate in the cell next to him kept screaming for help. So when the officer opened the cell next door, the officer found an inmate who had been held and tortured for almost 4 days. He had been injured in his eye, and he suffered a traumatic brain injury. He was airlifted to an outside hospital where he would later survive. Another incident in that same month involved an inmate who dug a hole in the wall into another man's cell, where the inmate would slide his way into the other man's cell, beat him, and rape him.
Wow. This is him.
A female officer would find the victim hidden under his bed with his head bleeding. He was hospitalized for head trauma requiring 26 staples and was treated for rib fractures and fractures to his fingers. An even worse story is when in 2022...
Wait, so now look, put everything into perspective, right? What's really going on in the jails where a guy was able to be tortured for 4 days straight and another guy was able to be tortured as well? We don't know how long he was, but to be put under the bed. And so what are these guards doing? Nobody's doing checks. Nobody walking around checking the cells properly. How is this able to happen under these guards' watch? And once again, none of these guards are being held accountable.
18-year-old inmate Jacob Daniels was attacked by 3 individuals who broke his wrist and his feet and stuffed fillings from inside a cut-up mattress in his mouth, stabbed him in the throat with an ink pen, and cut his wrists with glass from a broken light bulb. The attackers, Cody Brock and James Collins, were charged with malice murder, aggravated assault, and false imprisonment. But also prison guards have been known to secretly work with gangs in prison and being on their payroll and sometimes play a part in the role of an inmate's death. For example, in September of 2022 at Phillips State Prison, 3 Blood gang members, including one of them, 19-year-old Malik McBride, planned to run into a rival Crip member's cell to kill him. The Bloods told the prison guard that was on duty at the time their plans, and the guard agreed, so the prison guard unlocked the Crip gang member's prison cell and walked away.
Wow.
Shortly after, the 3 Bloods ran into the Crip cell, but with the Crip gang member being smart and already on point, he was prepared for an attack. The first blood to enter the cell was Malik McBride, and the attack didn't last long because as soon as they went in, the Crips stabbed Malik in the head and with a fatal stab wound to the heart.
Ah, see? They tried to set him up, right? And the guard was even in on it. They tried to, and these are the guys right here too. First of all, this is the guy that got stabbed in the head by the Crip guy. But look at these guys. Look at the weapons they got. See the weapons? Right? So at the end of the day, they tried to set him up, but he was already a step ahead and kind of already felt them coming. And as soon as his gate opened, I guess he grabbed his weapon, and the first guy that came in there, he caught him, stabbed him. He's gone. Now you know what that did? Now if they wasn't too much of cowards, they would have sit there and tried to jump him or at least do something. But sometimes it only take that one. You just got to get that one person to make an example out of, and that's what he did.
The other two Bloods ran back to their cells and locked their doors, and Malik attempted to run back to his, but he collapsed before he could make it.
Over.
After this incident, the Crip was not charged with Malik's death because he admitted it was self-defense. But one of the Blood members was charged with felony murder for his involvement in initiating the attack. When word was spread throughout the Georgia prisons of Malik's death from a rival Crip member, it started a gang war in 3 separate prisons in the state of Georgia. On October 1st, 2022 at Coffee State Prison, a war broke out between Bloods and Crips and 2 inmates were taken to the hospital. On October the 2nd at Maycomb State Prison, a war caused 13 inmates to be taken to the hospital. And on October 3rd at Ware State Prison, 5 inmates were sent to the hospital. In the end, a total of 2 gang members were killed and 20 gang members were hospitalized. The prison guard that opened the original Crips cell door was placed under investigation for the incident because he failed to cooperate. He was eventually fired.
That's it? See what I'm saying? This is their punishment. He was fired. Somebody lost his life due to this man right here not holding up his duty as a correction officer, and all he did was get fired. If I was that family, man, I would have sat there and sued the living, because there's no way in hell. Ain't no way. And you know what's crazy? A lot of times these guys, they place certain gang members in certain housing units that they know they're not supposed to put them in. So if they know that you're Crip, to make your, to make your life a little harder, especially because I don't know about where y'all at, but in Rikers, you have some COs that are gangbanging too. You got some CEOs in Rikers right now that's gangbanging. How are you supposed to win against that? So here's what happened, right? A guy that's claiming Crip, if they don't like him, they'll purposely put him in a Blood housing unit. His life is miserable from there. Miserable. He's either going to check in the PC, he's going to stay there and thug it out, or they going to hurt him. Right? And this is why they always ask, like, be honest with us so we know where to place you. If you rep any gangs, let us know right now so we know where to put you. But once again, it's a gift and a curse, because even when you do tell them, some of the guards are gang affiliated and they want to make your life miserable.
In the end, a prison facility is no place for any man, and it is a blessing to come home from it. It is crucial to never take your freedom for granted, because not everyone sentenced to prison makes it home.
No late night vibe, Late night vibe, we playing PS5. Yeah, man. Know what's going on.
That's pretty much it. For anybody, once again, if you're in the streets, man, especially if you're young, I mean, at some point, once you get older, you big enough to make your own decisions, that's on you. But for the younger ones that's watching this, if you've never been to jail, or you're doing something that could possibly land you in jail, please think twice, man. It's a lot of ways to get money out here these days. I know a lot of times, most of the crimes are due to financial crimes. And, guys, they get put in situations and a lot of them go to jail and don't make it out, unfortunately. So think twice about it, man. Shout out to Firm Hand, and I hope y'all like this video. Y'all let me know what else y'all want to see in the comments, man. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell so you're notified every time we drop new content. And remember, as long as you keep on watching, I'm going to keep on dropping. And I'm out.